Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, and today we are back with another exciting tutorial on Kubernetes. So this will be a continuation of our Kubernetes tutorial for beginners, and if you want to see the full Kubernetes course, I will link my playlist for Kubernetes in this video description, where we have completely covered the Kubernetes tutorial, like starting from setting up Minikube, what is deployment, services, replica set, and all those information, how to create deployment. But in this tutorial, what we are going to do is we are going to talk about how we can deploy a complete Node.js application to Kubernetes. So this will be a base for you, like if you want to deploy your application to Kubernetes as a service, where you can access it from outside, you can make use of this concept. So as part of this Kubernetes application deployment tutorial, what we will do is we'll create a Node.js application. So what I will be creating is a very simple application, but you can create your extended Node.js application for this tutorial, and we'll create a Docker file, and we'll see how this look like. This is a sample way, like where Docker file would be like, where we'll have index.js for the Node.js application package.json. So we'll talk about all those things, and we will build our own image. Okay, so we'll use Docker commands to build, and we'll push that image to Docker Hub, and so we'll be using Docker for that, and we'll create Kubernetes deployment and services. So we'll write the complete YAML file for deployment and also services, and then we'll create our deployment and services so we can access our Node.js application using Kubernetes. So that should be our complete end-to-end process. So there will be 7 stages. So before I get started into that, so I would request you, if you have not subscribed to my channel, or if you're new to my channel, click on the subscribe button. Also like my videos, share and comment. So starting, the process would be like creating a Node.js app. So we'll get into the demo. So let's talk about how to create a Node.js app. So I'll just show you a demo. So I already have created the Node.js app. So if you can see, I'm inside the folder, and I have a few files over here. So the main file is called package.json, so where you will be describing your dependencies. So we are going to use Express. So if you don't know how to create all these things, probably you can check the tutorial on how to create Node.js app. So you just create one folder, and you should have Node installed on your machine. You can run npm init, so it will create a base configuration where you'll have the package.json. There you can add your dependencies, or you can use npm install express-g, or if just for that application, install express, and so it will automatically add those dependencies in the node package.json. So this is a simple application, so only dependency we need is express, and this is for testing, which may not be needed, because if you don't want to do testing, why I done this, because I need to use this app for another tutorial for how to do a testing using integration, GitLab and Jenkins. So that's why I added this one. So if you can see, there is a folder for test as well, which is not a mandatory one. So you can just create a simple one with Express, and you can have the script like when you start, it should be node index.js. Some people use like app.js or server.js, so it's up to you. Based on that, you can change it. Now you can see the index.js. It's a pretty simple concept. We are using Express, so we are using recur Express, so we are importing that, and then we are creating an app with the Express. So the first thing what we are doing is we are going to call app.get, and if the slash means is the home page. So when we access home page, we are going to call get request, and they will be sending the response. The response should be hello from the tips for you. So when you log in to the home page, you will be getting like response hello from tips for you. And I'm also creating some routes. So if you go like homepage/will, it will be giving response hello world, and or if you go to /ready, it will give you great, it works. And our application will listen on the port 3000. So that's the overall simple app. So using an Express, okay. And if you go to test, I have a test file where I'm using the super test, and I'm just going to check whether if you go to this location, what should be the output. So if you get this, then it will tell like, okay, test succeed. But this is not a mandatory one, okay. So but don't worry, I will give my GitHub location. So I have my GitHub location here, where I already uploaded this Node application, where I'll give you this link, and we'll be using this to download into our Docker machine. So we'll use git clone and we'll clone this application. So that's the overall thing what we are doing. So once you have your Node application ready, the next step is like you also have pushed this to GitHub, right? So that you can use this anytime, or you can make some modification. So the next step should be like how you can Dockerize this Node.js app, right? So in order to Dockerize the Node.js app, you need to create a Docker file. So that should be our second step, to create a Docker file. So in order to create a Docker file, you have to follow the steps like how you write the Docker file. So we need to start with from. So I have done separate videos for all these things, but I'm just telling you all those things step by step here, so it will help you to recollect. So first you need to import the base image. So since it's the Node application, I'm going to use Node, and the image is latest, and we are going to set a working directory. So our app will be running on the /user src app, and I'm going to copy the package.json. So why I've given star is because in my file I have both. This package log.json is not mandatory here, because this will be created when you run npm install. So these files I have copied because I have run npm install and all the dependencies were created, and then I just imported that into the GitHub. That's why this package.json is. So basically you don't need it. You can use just package.json as well. Okay, and once you copy that to your /means, that will be your src app folder. That is your current working directory, right? Then you can run npm install. So then once you run npm install, it will create node modules and also the package.json, package-log.json, so where it will install all the dependencies. And then you can run copy whatever content, which would be the index.js. And if you have other file like src or css sheets or other routes, so all those things you can copy it to the this location. Then you need to export port 3000, because our application is using port 3000, so that has to match here. And then you have to run the command. So we are going to use a node and index.js. So that will be like Node is running this index.js app, so we'll be able to access our application. So once you have the Docker file ready, the next step should be like build your image. For that you need to go to our Docker machine. So I have this machine where I have Docker installed, okay, and I also have the Minikube setup on this machine. So I'm going to use this machine for this whole tutorial. So what I will do is I will just clone this GitHub location repository. So I will use git clone, and I will use that. So before that, let me create a folder. So I'm just inside a folder called Node.js, so that there is nothing inside. So now I will use git clone, and I will clone this GitHub repo. Okay, so if so if you so let me see, could not read from repository. Let me check. Yep, sorry, that was because I have used the SSH key. So let's use the HTTPS and let's try to clone it. So let's git clone and run this command. So since this is an open project, you should not have any problem with authentication, because it's a public GitHub repo. So you can see it has downloaded the app. So I will go to node app test. Okay, so we can see all the files which was there from the GitHub repo, right? So now what we have is like we have this Docker file as well, which we created. So now we need to create the Docker image, right? So we need to create the Docker image. So we are inside this folder. So in order to create Docker image, you have to use Docker build -tag, so which is T, and I have to give the name for the image. So here, if you see, I have to give the exact name, which is your Docker Hub user account. So mine is the tips for you, and I'm going to call this as node app, and the node Docker file is in this location. So it has to be very clear that this should be matching with your Docker Hub user account. Otherwise, you will not be able to push it. So let's run this command. So you can see it is trying to copy, and it's trying to install, and we'll wait for this to be completed. So you can see it has completed. So the Docker npm install, it will create the node modules and also package log.json, and it will copy the rest of the other contents, and now you can see the build is completed. So now if we clear the screen and go to Docker images, now we can see there is a repo called tips for your node app, and the tag is latest, right? So if you wanted to give a different tag, you should have given it there. So since I did not given anything, it has created the latest tag. So our Docker image is created. Now if you want to test this Docker image before you upload it, you can use docker run -d, and since I want to access this website using port 3000, I'm going to map port 3000, and this should be the image. So you can see it has created a container, right? So let's try to access this container. So the node to access, I need to have the IP address for this machine, which should be this one. Okay. Now if you access this IP address with port 3000, you can see the response hello from the tips for you, right? And also we had other routes called will. There you will get hello world, right? And you should have one more called ready, where you get great, it works, right? So this it's working perfectly fine, the image. So we are having the container running, so I will go to Docker PS and I will remove this container, okay? Because we don't want to run the container on this machine. We want the service to be running on the Kubernetes. Okay, so we have the container Docker image ready now. So the next step is like now our image is ready. We have to push this image to Docker Hub, so that our image is in the Docker Hub, and we'll use that image to the Kubernetes service and deployment. So let's push this into the Docker Hub. So in order to push to Docker Hub, you need to log in to Docker first. So I will use Docker login. So you can see username. So I have to put the username. So that should be my username, and I have to give the password. So it should be, let me recollect it. So you can see I have logged in. Okay, so I have logged into the Docker Hub. Now I have to push this image. So in order to push this image, you need to use Docker push, and the image name should be the tips for you / node app, right? And the tag should be latest. So this should be matching with your image we just created, okay? And the tag latest, so it should be it. So let me just push it, so you can see it's trying to push the image Docker Hub. Okay, so let's wait. So before it's getting pushed, I want to just show you, like, I don't have any image in the repository yet, so we'll wait for that to be pushed. Okay, so you can see nothing is there, so still the process is happening, so we'll just wait for this to be completed. Okay, great. So we have this our Docker image is pushed to Docker Hub. So let me go and refresh it. Yep, great. So we can see, like, you have the app available here in Docker Hub now, and you can see I have a tag called latest, right? So you should have all this information over here. So this should be the image which you can use it if you want to create a containers, or if you want to create service deployment in Kubernetes. Okay, great. So now our next step is, like, now we have created our image in the Docker Hub, right? Or we have pushed it. Now let's make use of that image to create our deployment in Kubernetes, so that we can create our deployment. So this should be my Kubernetes deployment file. So you can see, let me close these things. So you can see this is the deployment format. So if you don't know how to write a deployment manifest file, again, I would say, like, you just have a look on my Kubernetes playlist. We have covered a separate tutorial on how to write deployment manifest, also service manifest, HPAs, replica sets. So all those things we have covered. So the kind, the API version would be apps/v1, kind would be deployment, and I'm going to give a name for this deployment, which should be node app-deployment, and the labels, it should be app node app. So this is very important, because The deployment will have this app label, which will be should be matching with our the label for services as well. So now we are giving specs replicas, and I'm going to go with one replica for this pod. Okay, and now we are going to have a match selector. So again, this match selector, the label has to match like app node app, because this should be matching with our containers, right? So the template, we are going to use metadata, again labels, app label, right? So this any this matching, it should be used for this deployment. That's what will be how it will be, right? So now if you have a specs, we are going to use container, and the name of the container will be node server, and the image, this also has to be matching. It should be coming from your Docker Hub. So once you give this image, it will be creating a deployment using this image. And the port, the container port should be 3000, because that's the port which we have exposed in our node app. If you have exposed on some other 8080 or something, you have to change this based on that. Okay, so let's copy this into this, and let me create one file. So I'll create one file called Deployment.yml. Okay, and I'm going to insert this content over here, and I'm just going to save. Okay, so I'm not going to run it now. So let me also before that, let me also talk to you about the services. So since we created the deployment manifest file, now let's talk about how to create a Kubernetes service YAML file. So once you create a deployment, you will not be able to access this application from outside, right? So for to access it from outside, you should also have a service. So let's create a service. So service also will have a manifest file, so that will have API v1 and kind service, and the metadata, you can give any name for the service. I'm going to call node app -service, and the selector. So again, this one has to match what you have given in the deployment. Otherwise, the service will not create a deployment if it's not matching. And what we are going to use, the type load balancer. There are different kind of services you can create, right? A cluster IP, load balancer, different things. So we are using load balancer, and the ports. So we are going to call the protocol TCP, and we are going to set a 5000 port. And this would be important, because the target port has to match 3000, because that's the way place our container will be exposing in the port. And since usually when we use load balancer, Kubernetes service will assign a port between I think it's 30,000 to some numbers, I don't exactly recollect. So you can choose in between that, so that it does not give some random numbers all the time. So if you want to keep a specific node port which is not used, you can set that over here in the service. So that should be for the service. So let's copy that, and let's create a file called Service.yml, and let's insert this over here. So we have our deployment ready. We have also our service ready. So next step should be how to deploy. So the final step is to deploy our application in Kubernetes. So let's get started with that. So I'm going to use Minikube. So in this machine, I mentioned I have Minikube installed, and it's running as well. So you can see Minikube is running. If you don't know how to set up Minikube, again, I would say the full Kubernetes course, you can refer my playlist. Okay, so you can get the complete information starting from beginning to up to this point. Okay, so let's see some kubectl get pods. So you don't have any pods running, and we have get deployments. You don't have any deployment, and we kubectl get svc. We don't have the other service other than the Kubernetes cluster IP, which is the default one. So we don't have any other things running. So now since we have the file here, let's just apply kubectl apply -f, and I'm going to use Deployment.yml first, because we need to create the deployment before service. So if I go to kubectl get deployment now, you can see the deployment is getting created. So it's not ready yet. So let's see. Yep, now you can see it's ready. So we have our deployment ready, and if you go to kubectl get pods now, we should have a pod as well running. So when you create a deployment, it will create a pod as well. So the pod is also running. So now in order to access this deployment, we need to have a service. So let's apply kubectl apply -f, and it should be service.yml. So let service is also created. So get svc. So we have our node service also created. So you can see it's 5000 and it's mapping to the port, which node port which we have set up, right? So now how to access this application from outside? You can get more information since it's a Minikube, so you can use Minikube service, and we can run this service name. So it should give you like, this should be the URL which you can use to access. So you can just use this one. Okay, you can put the URL here and you can run. You can see we are getting the home page, right? And if you run we should be getting hello world, and we should we should be getting all the routes, right? So we are having this application now running on Kubernetes cluster. So that's how you can run your application. You need to create your image, you push it to Docker Hub or any other repository where you can use it for your deployment, and then you create a service. So we see that the complete step-by-step process, how to create deployment, how to create service. So this is the concept. You can use it for any application. Only thing is you have to modify your Docker file. You need to create a build, and then you need to modify your deployment and service based on your requirement. So that is all for this tutorial. I hope it's an informative tutorial for you, and I request you to subscribe for more videos, and also like my videos, share, and provide your support. So thank you for watching.